welcome back to the How to Podcast series. This is Dave. Happy to be back with you again. We are doing episode 1 in our little mini-series here about the apple seed. If you haven't heard the story, you need to go back. But to summarize, we talked earlier about the fact that you can cut open an apple, pop out all the seeds, put them on the table, and you can count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed. So we are here to talk about creating impact with your podcast. And we have a bunch of little mini episodes we're going to be doing around creating that impact. And how do we do that? So number 1 in our series that we're doing, we're calling it the Apple Seed Series here on the How to Podcast series. We like the word series around here, apparently. So number 1 in our little mini series we're going to be talking about is going back again to our why, but clarifying your podcast's purpose. Here on the How to Podcast series, it's the Apple Seed series. You ready? Grab an apple. Let's go. So we need to clarify the purpose of our podcast. We talked way back, episode 1. Oh, wow. 128 episodes ago. Wow. We talked about our why. We want to kind of build on that a little bit and bring that back. If you haven't listened back to episode 1, there's a lot of podcast content for you here on the How to Podcast series. We'd love for you to go back and listen. Information is designed to be there as an ongoing resource and guide for you as you build your podcast. And I know even though we're on 129 today, there's a lot of great stuff back there in the history. But clarifying your podcast purpose is the overarching reason behind why you're creating the content that you have planned for your podcast. Your podcast purpose encapsulates the message that you want to convey and the value you aim to provide to your listeners. So I have one actionable tip for you around clarifying your podcast's purpose. And that is, your actionable tip for today is to craft a mission statement. A concise, compelling mission statement that clarifies and articulates your podcast purpose. This mission statement should encapsulate what your podcast stands for, the topics that you're going to cover, and the benefits your listeners are going to gain by tuning in to your podcast. Keep this mission statement visible just off to the side by your computer screen or on your phone or somewhere that you're going to interact with on a regular basis to help you to stay aligned with your purpose. So what goes into creating a great mission statement? I've got 5 things to consider about creating an awesome mission statement. And in between each of our points, you're going to hear this sound, and that's going to let you know that we're moving on to the next one. So you ready? Number 1, purpose. What is the primary purpose and reason that your podcast exists? I want you to note, while aspects of your vision may come into play here, a mission statement isn't the same thing as a vision statement. A vision statement captures where you want your podcast to go in the future. It's really kind of aspirational, big dream. But a mission statement is about what your podcast is doing right now that sets your podcast apart and goes beyond providing products and services, which will almost certainly change over time. But your mission statement is all about what you're doing right now in the moment. Okay? Not vision, but mission. Number 2, capability. In what way or ways does your podcast excel? What are the key strengths and advantages that set your podcast apart from all the other podcasts in your area, in your genre, in your niche? Granted, you may be in the process of improving and strengthening your podcast That's normal. The world's most successful companies are never satisfied with today's standard operating procedures, the status quo. They're always on the process and on the hunt to always get better, always improve, constant improvement. Even as they dominate their marketplace, they're still looking for ways that they can get better. The idea here is to capture your core abilities and encapsulate them in an overall mission statement that both reflects what you're amazing at and points the way forward for your podcast. That was number 2. Number 3, inspirational. No, you don't have to get all sentimental here, but your mission statement should be inspiring and motivating, since part of its function is to recalibrate and re-energize, which is particularly important when things do not go well. And that will happen. When obstacles emerge and so on, your mission statement is there to inspire you to move forward. Often, the inspirational nature of a mission statement is emphasized in the words that are used to describe the elements were already noted. Purpose, competencies, all of the things about your podcast. Number 4 is clarity. And I love this because it is very important, but it's also extremely difficult to strike a balance between a functional and therefore useful mission statement that is something that you can act on. If the mission statement is too short, it'll be cryptic and it will exclude mandatory components. But if it's too big, it's cumbersome and sits in a binder on the shelf, never really referenced. So you need to strike a balance. And this takes a while and it takes a lot of effort to do this, but it's really worth it. Your mission statement will give your podcast clarity. Number 5, legacy. While a mission statement is fundamentally about the present future, it's also an important way to capture the spirit and essence of your podcast's legacy. And that's one thing we don't talk a lot about in podcasting is the legacy of our show. And that in early days of our podcast, we're just thinking about getting out the next episode. But your podcast library of episodes become your legacy online and builds community. Even when someone comes to episode 129 of your podcast and then goes, you know what, I want to go back to episode 1 and I want to follow the trajectory. I want to follow the story of my host and be a part of the journey to get them to where they are right now. It's all about legacy. What you are known for in your podcast and in your community, and perhaps more importantly, what do you want to be known for in the years ahead? You're investing your time creating podcasts. You're investing your time building community on social media, on your website. You're responding to your listeners. You're being empathetic. You are putting yourself out there. You want to make sure that you're building legacy. Understand that mission statements are not a sign on the wall. They're not static. Mission statements should change on a regular basis. They should be updated. They're not carved in stone. A mission statement is going to help keep your podcast on track, but it shouldn't become stale or irrelevant or forgotten or seldomly referenced. We need to revisit this on a regular basis and make sure that our mission statement is leading us in the right direction. So, as we look at our Appleseed series, remember, your podcast is going to have impact far beyond what you're even intending it to do. You're going to reach people their lives are going to change. Their insights, their thought patterns, who they are is going to change. That's going to impact their community. Their community might not even know about you. And that community will impact their community, and so on. So as you put your words out through a microphone into the world, again, you can't count the number of apples in a seed. It is probably the most amazing thing when you can discover the impact of your podcast by defining your purpose and your audience. This is what it's all about. This is why we're doing this. We want to create a clear idea of what our podcast purpose is through crafting a great mission statement. I would love to hear your mission statement using those 5 points. Just leave me a voice message over on howtopodcast.ca. Send me an email. I'll read your mission statement out. I will play your mission statement if you send me a recording through my SpeakPipe link on my website. And I want to hear your mission statement for your show. On the next episode of our Appleseed series, we're going to talk about identifying your target audience and have an actionable tip for there as well. Okay? There you go. So today was all about clarifying your podcast purpose. On the next one, identifying your target audience. If you need help with your podcast, howtopodcast.ca is the place to go for the judgment-free way to start a podcast. If you're tired of having people talk down to you, I'm here to build you up and encourage you to start your show and give you the tools and the expertise to do it on your budget, in your way that serves you the best. Thank you for listening to the How to Podcast series. Get out there, grab an apple, cut it up. I want to know how many seeds you found today. Let me know how many seeds in the apple you have in front of you. Talk to you on the next one. Take care.